Sir, so good morning. Can you briefly introduce yourself, please?
Uh, Good afternoon to me, and my name is Jonathan, and I am a medical doctor. We used to be uh, working under the government, but now I'm currently working under a private international pharmaceutical company, and I have such a kind of privilege to talk with you today.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. So, the first question is that is vaping better than smoking? Can you please share about this misconception?
Oh yeah, actually. Vaping is not a safe one, but in terms of comparing with the smoking cigarettes, you can say rather safer. Uh, it's not harmless, but it is less harmful. Yeah, and because of like vaping still contains a lot of different chemicals, multiple uh numerous amount of chemical that can still affect and still harm our health, especially our lungs and our brains, our entire body.
Um, so what are the substances and ingredient that contains in vape that is like especially harmful since you mentioned you're a pharmacist?
Mhm. So, as far as I have mentioned before, vaping is still considered dangerous and should not be must not be used, especially for young children, pregnant, and because it still contains a lot of different chemicals. Like the first one is nicotine, and which is the same with cigarette, our traditional cigarette, which is have addictive stimulant, and then we have some kind of like propylene glycol, which is also called PG, and the other called VG, which is a vegetable glycerin, which has a kind of like effect to create a vapor, and most of people like see it's very attractive, very interest, very attractive, like because it can create a lot of vapor, but and also some kind of flavorings in that kind of vaping. For example, menthol, or those kind of flavorings can have a compound called like diacetyl, which has also can lead to serious lung disease. And another compound is like volatile organic compounds, VOC. And then another compound is heavy metals. There can be several heavy metals such as lead or nickel and tin, because if we because of we heat the coil and heat the tin, and then it can release some kind of heavy metals too. And then the last one is ultrafine particles. We cannot see through with our own eyes, but because it's which is very small and ultrafine particles, and that can be THC. THC is a very dangerous, harmful chemical, which is called tetrahydrocannabinol. Its main compound in the cannabis, marijuana. Uh, it can lead to several diseases, and it's also cause addictive to young people.
Um, so the next question is how can these as vaping is getting more common among teenagers who are still developing their brains, how can vape affect
Mhm.
their growth if they drink it during their puberty?
Oh, okay. Vaping is kind of like becoming a cultural reset, especially after 2025 or 2010, 2020. It's more, becoming more style, becoming more cultural. It's not about releasing your stress. It's not about, um, for your health. It's not about your mental issue anymore. It becomes a very serious issue because most of like out of maybe 8 out of 10 teenagers use like maybe one or two times in their life, and then most of those use young people, they become addictive and then they continue using it, which is called gateway effect. Gateway effect is like when you start doing something and then it can lead to doing some more harmful things. It is also called like domino effect, you know. And it for young people who have started vaping, they are not afraid to do drugs anymore. They are not afraid to do some more, harmful and more dangerous things. They are not afraid anymore. So as I have mentioned before, those chemicals can damage, especially in the lungs. So it, uh, as I have mentioned before, those kind of chemicals can cause, the lung diseases, like popcorn lung diseases, which is irreversible, and then which can mimic to like TB and also COPD, chronic obstructive lung disease, and also it can be the starting point of the tuberculosis because vaping can decrease your immune system, can weaken your immune system, and then you are like welcoming other diseases. And then tuberculosis is the disease that when you are like feel less immune and you are if you are prone to like many diseases, and tuberculosis is the first thing that you can get. So uh, combining with the previous effect about the lung diseases and the tuberculosis, that can make young people, they're irreversible and they may be fatal, that they can be dead and they can hospitalized because of that baby. I have seen so many young people like be hospitalized because of vaping. One time that one of my students that I'm familiar and I used to teach them, he like got hospitalized because of vaping. And then not you are seeing that that children go to hospital because of some kind of diseases. But if you start looking back and you start finding back the original, the starting point of the disease is the vaping. After vaping, his immune system dropped really significantly, and then you're gonna see that a lot of diseases coming to him, and then that can it very very fatal and very we I tried, we have his family tried so much, to save his life. And another thing is about the brain. So as I mentioned before, those nicotines have addictive effect, and then some also flavorings, and then they started thinking like vaping is kind of like escaping from their mental issues. Teenagers, they already have been dealing with some mental issues, right? So they're kind of depressive, they're kind of comparing to each other. They are like kind of like lost in their pathway. They want to go outside of the country, and especially in Myanmar, this kind of comparison, the competitions is really intense, and then they want to escape. And then vaping is kind of like the escape feature uh, of their lifetime. And then but it's really really wrong decision. As I mentioned before, they are like in the teenagers age, which is still their brain cells stay growing. Their brain, usually teenagers brain cell usually like develops until the age of 25, right? So most of the people are enter the 25 under 20, so their brain cell cannot develop more. So this their brain cell, their immune system stop developing, and then they cannot learn anything about it. Even they try to learn something, but they cannot concentrate, they cannot compete, they cannot complete, and then they cannot accomplish anything. So that can lead to like dominant effect. Even the start of vaping small amount, that can lead to like kind of failure in their life. That's really sad, and that's really happening, already happening. And I have seen so many individual, and also um some kind of behavior issues. I have seen so many young children who have vaping constantly. There's a difference between adult vaping and teenager vaping. Adult vaping, they know they how when do they have to stop. But in teenagers, they don't know, that they cannot differentiate which is more different, which is more important, which is the time they have to stop the vaping because the teenagers they have some already have some kind of behavior issues, and then that can lead to some kind of mental illness, and then that can lead to the chaos between the family members. And as I've mentioned before, they're gonna be performing very poorly in academic, and they're gonna suffer a lot of depressions and then anxiety, and maybe even because of the gateway effect, they're gonna start using like those drugs, illegal drugs. They're gonna stop doing that, and then the effects are way more handful and worse, even after everything.
This is the last question. Can you please present? Wait, can you hear me? Hello?
What?
Can you
Mm-hmm.
hear me? Hang on, hang on.
Yeah,
Wait,
okay.
wait, wait. Oh, wait. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay. Um,
Yeah, I can hear you.
can you please present your views about pros and cons about like vaping, just cons in general?
Yeah. In terms of speaking pros, if I have to like point out the very few pros and advantages of vaping, there are some. So, for example, like vaping can help to adult to quit smoking because their traditional cigarettes is way more harmful than the vaping. So that's kind of helpful, and it has some fewer toxic chemical than traditional cigarettes, and also uh, that can lead to if they use for good, that can lead to use for medical purposes, that can be good. But it is such a small cases, but there are way more cons and disadvantages of vaping, a lot of harmful effects to health, even lungs, your heart diseases, every cardiologist say that one thing that they have to avoid, that they cannot do anything to protect their heart is to stop smoking. So they're gonna cause a lot of heart problems, and then they are very highly addictive. Uh, it's it can influence your brain and your behavior, and it can cause so many depressions and anxiety and mental illness after that, and which may contain some harmful chemical that cannot be registered because the secret business is very dark and very, you know, uh, is especially in developing country, we cannot know exactly what are inside the vapings, what are the chemicals are. That's very dangerous, very blindfolded. You cannot know anything about those ingredients. So maybe that can lead to like cancer, especially the lung cancer, which is very becoming more like the threatening situations to Myanmar, especially for youth people, and which is poisoning, and it can cause like it cause not only the chronic the disadvantages, but also it can lead to the short term effects. Yeah, you can go to the hospital even after when smoke, because some people they are prone to those kind of chemicals, and then they can lead to poisoning. And if they have having poisoning issues, they're gonna be like hypoxia, they cannot breathe through, their brain cannot receive oxygen, and then they're gonna go to hospital like immediately after vaping. Yeah. And the long-term effects are way more handful. So that's why there's a thousand times the disadvantages are more than the advantages.
Thank you so much for your time today, sir. I really appreciate it. Um, so I'll stop
Thank
the
you.
recording now.